6:45. This is a Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation. The news edited by Lal Malwarachi and read by Lavani Vijayatunga. First, we take a look at the headlines. Christians all over the world celebrate the Easter Sunday today, commemorating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The President says all must unite in a common agenda to overcome an era of unprecedented hardship and uncertainty. Warnings of possible landslides issued for several areas in the Badulla and Ratnapura districts. So far, 23 ships carrying coal for the Nurechole Lakvijay coal power plant has arrived in the country. The government employees will be paid the April salary tomorrow. In news overseas, Ukraine to export electricity again after months of Russian attacks. And in sports news, the Irish cricket team arrives in the island today. Those are the headlines, and now move on to the details of the local news. The Christian holiday, Easter, also called Pascha or Resurrection Sunday, falls today. This marks the resurrection of Jesus Christ, who sacrificed himself for the sins of humanity. It proves him as a true Son of God who defeated evil and death before ascending to heaven. Christians all over the world celebrate Easter, commemorating the resurrection of Jesus. President Ranil Wickremesinghe in his Easter Sunday message says that it is an occasion for people to reflect on the values of love, peace and forgiveness as espoused by Jesus, which are the core of Sri Lankan culture. Sri Lankans must come together with family, friends and communities to solemnize the blessings of life has to offer. Easter Sunday celebrates the ability of Lord Jesus Christ as the Son of God to transform lives by dispelling darkness in people's minds and bringing hope to the world. Sri Lankans are presently seeking to overcome an era of unprecedented hardship, uncertainty and disappointment and are looking forward for a better tomorrow. The government is dedicated in realizing the aspirations of all Sri Lankans regardless of race, religion, party or color. The President says he strongly believes that the country can overcome these challenges in the near future. It is crucial that we all unite in a common agenda that elevates us beyond narrow political objectives and regressive trends and instead paving the way for the country's forward progress. The President further says that he is aware of the extreme pain caused by the Easter Sunday attacks being still fresh in our minds. He wishes to reassure the people that legal proceedings relating to this tragic incident are being processed independently and impartially without any influence. Police spokesman SSB Nihal Talduwa says that a special security program is underway today near church premises. The police spokesman added that the police will also engage in day and night mobile patrols and also set up checkpoints to ensure security during this period throughout the country. The National Building Research Organization has issued warnings for possible landslides within the next 24 hours in several areas in the Badulla and Ratnapura districts. Accordingly, the NBRO says since the rainfall within the last 24 hours has exceeded 100 millimeters and if the rain continues, the people in the Haldamulla area of the Badulla Division Secretariat Division and the surrounding areas and Alapatha of the Ratnapura Division Secretariat Division and the surrounding areas need to be on alert for possibilities of landslides, slope failures, rock failures, cut failures and ground subsidence and be ready to evacuate to safer locations if the need arises. Furthermore, people living in landslide-prone areas should be extra vigilant and should be ready to move quickly to safer places if heavy rain continues, cautioned the NBRO. This is the news from the Sri Lanka Broadcasting Corporation.
People's Bank Excelsior. Live the life you want.
And we continue with more local news. So far, 23 ships carrying coal needed to generate electricity at the Nurechole Lakvijay coal power plant have arrived in Sri Lanka and the 23rd ship is currently unloading its coal shipment. Manager of the Nurechole power plant, Nalaka Vijayakon, said that at present there is a stock of about 380,000 metric tons of coal reserved for power generation. These coal ships are unloading at the Puttalam harbour and the coal will be transported by barrages from there to the Lakvijay power plant in Nurechole. The Consumer Affairs Authority says that the market raids and investigations have been expanded with immediate effect on the occasion of upcoming festive season. Investigating officers as well as special investigation teams have been deployed for duty, covering every day of the week in the authority's offices established in every district in the island. Accordingly, Consumer Affairs Authority has carried out 151 raids yesterday, and 51 of the raids are regarding egg sales. Nearly 1,250 raids have been conducted so far under the program implemented by the Consumer Affairs Authority for the festive season. Lanka Sathosa has reduced the prices of 3 more essential food items in addition to the 12 food items which the prices were slashed last week. Accordingly, the prices of canned fish, big onions and wheat flour have been reduced with effect from today. Big onion has been reduced by 22 rupees per kilo, and a price of a kilo of wheat flour has been reduced by 10 rupees and a tin of canned fish by 30 rupees. And to conclude the local news, the headlines once again. Christians all over the world celebrated the Easter Sunday today, commemorating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The President says all must unite on a common agenda to overcome an era of unprecedented hardship and uncertainty. Warnings of possible landslides issued in several areas in the Badulla and Ratnapura districts. So far, 23 ships carrying coal for the Nuraichole Lakvijay coal power plant has arrived in the island. The government employees will be paid their April salary tomorrow. And that was the local news.
People's Bank Excelsior, a comprehensive banking services package with a branded checkbook as well as debit and credit card exclusively for you. People's Bank Excelsior, for professionals who dare to dream.
The main news story is brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
The main news story for this morning. State Minister of Finance Dr. Ranjit Semblapati says that the government employees will be paid their April salary tomorrow. The government is also planning to pay a special allowance for employees in the last quarter of this year. He said that the President has given instructions to pay the public employees' salaries, pensions and some of the allowances before tomorrow. And that was the main news story.
The main news story was brought to you by Siddhalepa Vedamahatmya.
Watch Life is brought to you by
CIB New Year Bonanza. Special gifts and vouchers available till the 10th of April. Special discounts up to 20% on bank cards. CIB, excellence in customer care.
In Vasha this morning, the distribution of mud fertilizer to farmers for the Yala season is nearing completion. The Agrarian Development Department has notified the farmers who have not received the TSP fertilizer to obtain it before tomorrow. If not so, the stock of fertilizer will be sent to the main storages after this date. And that was the Watchlight.
CIB New Year Bonanza. Special gifts and vouchers available till the 10th of April. Special discounts up to 20% on bank cards. CIB, excellence in customer care.
Headlines of the world news. Ukraine to export electricity again after months of Russian attacks. Iran installs cameras to find women not wearing hijab. Ship carrying 20 tourists sink in Honduras. Search and rescue underway. Those are the headlines, and now let's move on to the details of the world news. Ukraine is able to export electricity for the first time in 6 months as its energy infrastructure recovers from months of repeated Russian attacks. Russia began its lengthy and deliberate assault on Ukraine's energy infrastructure last October. It led to power cuts and scheduled blackouts, leaving towns and cities in darkness during winter. Ukraine was forced to stop electricity exports but will now be able to sell its excess power again. Energy Minister signed an executive order authorizing the exports, although local customers remain the priority. Iranian authorities have begun installing cameras in public places to identify unveiled women, the police have announced. Identified women will receive a text about the consequences of not covering their hair with a hijab, the police said. This would help prevent resistance against the hijab law, the police said. Protests were sparked last year by the death in a police custody of Masha Amini, the young Kurdish woman arrested for allegedly violating the hijab rule. Search and rescue efforts are underway in Honduras after a ship carrying about 20 tourists sank, the Honduran Fire Department said. No reports of death or injuries have been reported so far in the incident that took place in Playa La Cabana in the San Lorenzo area, the fire department added. And that was the world news.
Development news.
Minister of Labour and Foreign Employment Manush Nanakara says his ministry is closely working with the main employment agencies in Japan to get more job opportunities for Sri Lankan workers in the Japanese labour market. The minister, who is also on an official visit to Japan, met Mr. Mahiru Tada, CEO of Paraso Global Workforce, and discussed the issue of providing more employment opportunities to Sri Lankan workers. Mr. Tada pointed out the importance of having language training for jobs in Japan. The minister, explaining the measures taken to teach Japanese language, stated that a cabinet paper has been presented to include the Japanese language as a subject in the school curriculum. The minister also pointed out that when a prospective employee gets a job, the Foreign Employment Bureau will reimburse the amount spent to acquire Japanese language proficiency. That was the development news, and now let's move on to sports news. The Irish cricket team arrives in the island today. Irish team in Sri Lanka will play 2 test match series. The first match will begin on the 16th of this month in Goa. The test match series will be formed the part of the ICC World Test Championship for the season 2021-2023. That is the sports news. Business news coming up.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
The National Lotteries Board has earned an income of 3 billion rupees for the first time in its history at a time when the private and state sector in the country were facing with many political and economic challenges. Chairman of the board, Ajit Gunaratne, said that measures will be taken to develop the Lotteries Board and its future activities under the new brand name Development Lotteries Board. That was the business news. Economic news follows.
Business News, sponsored by National Savings Bank, the safest place for your money.
Go ekak thiyana youth eකට life එකේ change එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න ඇස් වහගෙන දැකපු ගීන හැබැ කරන්න youth එකට නියමෙට set වෙන්න friendship එක මෙන්න.
The all-new NSB Ithru account, NSB IAM, a plan for your dream.
In economic news, Sri Lanka's gross official reserves went up by $472 million in March 2023 to $2.691 billion, the data show, helped by a credit crunch and residual balance from the first tranche of the International Monetary Fund loan. Sri Lanka's foreign reserves collected from current inflows are usually loaned in the US or similar top-rated borrowers. That is economic news and the weather report to conclude.
Weather report.
And finally, the weather report. Showers or thunder showers will occur at a few places in the western, Sabargamua and southern provinces during the afternoon or night. On the apparent northward relative motion of the sun, it is going to be directly over the latitudes of Sri Lanka during the 5th to the 15th of April this year. The nearest areas in Sri Lanka over which the sun is overhead today are Madampe, Kohilapokula, Kaikavala, Nilambe and few other areas at about 12 noon. That was the weather report, and before we conclude this bulletin, let's get back to the headlines once again. Christians all over the world celebrate the Easter Sunday today, commemorating the resurrection of Jesus Christ. The President says that all must unite in a common agenda to overcome an era of unprecedented hardship and uncertainty. Warnings for possible landslides issued in several areas in the Badulla and Ratnapura districts. So far, 23 ships carrying coal for the Nuraichole Lakvijay coal power plant has arrived in the island. The government employees will be paid their April salary tomorrow. In news overseas, Ukraine to export electricity again after months of Russian attacks. And finally on sports news, the Irish cricket team arrives in the island today. And with that, we conclude this bulletin of news. And now, before I hand over back to your regular Sunday morning host, Chandima, on the other side of the glass panel to brighten up your day, let me wish all our Christian listeners out there, here in Sri Lanka and abroad, a very blessed Easter.